Our tips are back with not directly some Square Enix news or information, but something that could pertain to some Square Enix games. But there's a rumor out there currently Sony's working on PlayStation 3 backwards compatibility for the PS5. This comes to us courtesy of the XboxEra podcast, and specifically Special Nick, I think is how you say his name, who, from what I've read, is a reputable insider, that he'd heard this, I guess, rumor. I'll play a clip from it really quickly, but if you want to check it out yourself, I'll have it linked in the description, and the part where he talks about the backwards compatibility starts at about 3 hours in.
So what I've heard, the rumor that I've heard, is that Sony is working on select PlayStation 3 backwards compatibility.
Obviously, the main takeaway from that part of the video is that it's select backwards compatibility. It's not just going to be every PlayStation 3 game available on PS5. It makes a bit of sense, and to be honest, I don't even really know how many games are still kind of stuck on the PS3. I kind of looking into it, I've seen some list of like suggestions. I came across like a Reddit post from a year or so ago of somebody who had recently purchased a PS3 specifically to play the 13 Trilogy, which is kind of the focus of the video here, but had people give him suggestions of games that he can't play on modern consoles, and I've seen some list of games, but I don't know fully what's not available on modern consoles from the PS3 era. Regardless, this is kind of exciting if it is true, just because there's a ton of games, whatever it is stuck on the PS3 that I've never played, because it's a console that I didn't own. Like, I went from PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2 to 360, because that's what the boys were on at the time, to Xbox One, and then now I've hopped back to PlayStation with like a PS4 back in 2020, and then obviously a PS5 now. Our PS3 era games that I've played as time's gone on, like The Last of Us and things like that, and like I think I have some sort of like Uncharted collection that I've played through a little bit. I haven't played them all, but it has like the first 3 or 4 games or some shit. What I've kind of looked into, there's like Infamous 1 and 2, which I've played those back in the day because one of my friends had a PS3. I have played, I think, the first 2 Infamous games, but it's been a very long time. I wouldn't mind diving back into that a bit if that becomes available on modern consoles. I believe also like Metal Gear Solid 4, which is one I've actually played as well. I haven't played a ton of the Metal Gear series, but that is one I've played. That's one that's stuck on PS3, so that'd be kind of nice to get that to like modern platforms, just because that is obviously a very popular franchise. We've also, from what I've read, that Metal Gear Rising is kind of stuck on the PS3, so that'd be another one. So there's actually a couple of Metal Gear games that need to be brought to modern consoles. But the obvious kind of focus here on the channel is Square Enix related stuff in the Final Fantasy series, and the 13 Trilogy. It's something we talked about not too long ago in a video. It's a trilogy that for some reason is stuck on like Xbox consoles. I don't know why. Like, you have the 13 Trilogy on like Game Pass, and you can go on the Xbox store on a modern Xbox console and buy either of the games for like $20 or so a piece. But for some reason, you can't purchase the 13 Trilogy on PS4 or PS5. Weirdest thing to me, considering the relationship that Square Enix and PlayStation have, where a lot of their shit is exclusive to PlayStation, either temporarily or for a set amount of time or whatever the fuck, right? Especially with like the Final Fantasy series, right? We're seeing that with like the 7 Remake trilogy and Final Fantasy 16, and up until recently, Final Fantasy 14, and there's other games in the series that have come out exclusive to PlayStation for at least a couple of years, but for some reason, the 13 Trilogy of all things is kind of exclusive to Xbox. Now, I, like a lot of other people out there, am not particularly a fan of 13. I have only played through it one time, but I did play the game to completion, right? So that there's something to be said there for it, where like I've played plenty of games and not finished them. For some reason, I was compelled to at least finish the story on 13. So there's at least something there that maybe I enjoyed. But I've never played the trilogy. I've never played the sequels. And while I didn't necessarily like 13, I would still like to give the second and third game a shot at some point, and maybe that'll happen relatively soon, whenever this rumor, if it ends up being true, happens. Which would just be kind of nice, because I've played pretty much every sort of like modern Final Fantasy game. I've played the first 3 at some point in my life. I don't know if I've ever played 4, 5, and 6. Maybe I have, and it's been a very, very long time. But I played obviously like 7 and up. Like, I've played every modern Final Fantasy game from 7 to 16 except for 11, and also the 13 sequels. Obviously, I could buy them on Xbox. I do own a Series S, but I don't really game on it. I don't even know why I have it, really. I guess I'll have it for like when the new Fable comes out eventually, and like Fallout 5 and Elder Scrolls 6, if those are even going to be on this generation, who knows. But any kind of, I guess, good exclusives on Xbox, if they ever come out, I'll have that console, but I just don't really game on it. And I'd rather just kind of keep everything that I game on the PlayStation consoles. A lot of people want like some sort of like a remaster for the 13 Trilogy, which would be great. I'd buy that for sure, but at the same time, I'd be happy with just a simple port, just so we can play them on modern consoles, and I can play them for the first time. Actually, looking at some of the list of suggestions people have for PS3 games that aren't available on modern consoles, there's actually another Square Enix one, at least one more, Drakengard 3, randomly for some reason, I guess, stuck on the PS3. It's obviously the Nier series, they're connected or whatever, so that's obviously a popular franchise. It'd be kind of nice. I have played the Dragon Guard games as well. I don't remember which one. It was Dragon Guard 1 or 2. It's on the PS2. It's been so fucking long I couldn't possibly tell you which game it was for sure, but I have played that series as well, a little bit. Anyways, kind of get back on topic here. Special Nick's, at least according to the rumor that he has, is that it's select backwards compatibility, and the 13 Trilogy is pretty highly requested a lot. It's something people want, whether it's a remaster or ports or whatever. So if they're being very selective with what they choose from the PS3 era to bring to modern consoles, I would think that the 13 Trilogy is a pretty likely candidate. Even though a lot of the community does like to hate on Final Fantasy XIII, it still does have a lot of fans, right? They're still very popular games. Anyways, that's pretty much the video. It's just a rumor right now, of course. If there's any more updates on this, we'll probably discuss in the future, especially if they're being selective with what they choose, and what they choose ends up being the 13 Trilogy. We'll obviously talk about it at some point, I'm sure. Of course, let me know, for those of you that have been gaming on the PlayStation platform for a very long time, especially with the PS3 era, what games are stuck on the PS3 still that you'd love to see come to the PS5? Anyways, that's the video. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Social networks in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, @DavidYT. That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Rogaine, or leave it like Cobain.